All right? Right, so there, ladies and gentlemen, is the vein that comes out of the kidney. All right, and that vein is called the renal vein. Okay? Now, while we have it here, let's talk about this, all right? There's the renal artery that we're going to mention next Wednesday. The renal artery is going to carry oxygenated blood into the kidney, but also a ton of metabolic wastes. We talked about one metabolic waste tonight that's present in that renal artery into the kidney, which is what metabolic waste?
Carbon dioxide. No.
Carbon dioxide is going to go here.
Is
Bilirubin. So R3 will be oxygen-rich blood, but carries a lot of metabolic waste in there, which I'm going to urinate out. And water, excess water. This is the renal vein, carries deoxygenated blood, carbon dioxide-laden blood, but blood that has been cleaned. So there's no metabolic wastes in it, because that was taken care of there. All right? So there's the inferior vena cava, folks. Now please look at that diagram right there, because notice what we've done on the left-hand side, running into the renal vein. On the left-hand side is that vein right there. And that vein, we start out first by calling it the genital or the gonadal vein right there. Genital gonad pertains to reproductive organs, right? Then, notice in parentheses there is the gender. What is the gender of the cat? So there is the testes. So this is a male. So now, folks, because it is the testes, that vein actually comes from there. So there's the vein right there, running all the way up. So first, we're going to call it the genital vein. And notice there's no blood in that. And there's no paint in it. Oh yeah, the other thing too that I should have mentioned, people. All right, and again, I don't my colleagues, no, you guys never buy 141. These cats right here are stray cats, all right, and they die horrifically because they gassed. So notice when we work with these cats, there's a tremendous degree of compassion and tenderness that I have personally with these. I have 2 cats at home, and I love them to death. Right? So when we work with these animals, reverence, right? So what happens? The cats are killed by the humane societies. Actually, it doesn't happen much anymore. So there's not many cats to work with, right? Then what happens? They inject blue paint into the veins. Latex paint. So as they drain the blood out, they inject the paint. And notice sometimes they don't get all the way. And then they do the same thing with the arteries. They inject pink paint into the arteries. So we can see. So we benefit. We learn. Right? And I always stress that. It's always, I've had the fortune of teaching hundreds of students over the years. Yeah, Thomas Nelson and at Ohio State. My daughter, I always use my daughter as an example. She's a medical student now, and this is where she started her interest. She was a little tyke. 2nd, 3rd grade. Dad, can I go with you to the lab? My wife, and I said, no, she's interested. Come, let's. And she'd sit here, make up the exam, and I said, okay, Sarah, pin in the genital vein. And she's like, okay, Daddy, there. By 141, I take the bones and muscles home, way back, and she'd help. But she was that inquiring mind, and it started here. With this. Then in medical school, cadavers, and now real people in the hospital, So again, there is that learning that happened like that. I have a student that's at Duke University now. A beautiful story. It's like a little brother to me. He came back, this was now a couple of years ago, young, came from Kansas, Missouri, young guy, Afghanistan. He came back messed up, and he came into my class, I was like, okay, whoa, lots of anger, couldn't sleep. I was exercising every day, and this young man just showed up. Professor, can I exercise with you? Young, right? He probably was 100 pounds wet, and he attacked those weights. I was like, what the heck? Run. I mean, I kind of like jokes. I come and race me. I'm like, heck, dude, I'm an old man. Shared stories with me. And I said, okay, Tim, yes, come have supper. this, and he learned. He's like, okay, I'm not quite sure what I want to do, Professor. And he's at Duke University now, second year medical student. Beautiful story. Beautiful story. And, when we open up this, he's like, oh my God. And I said, yeah, that's what you look like. I had to kick him out of the lab. Many nights, 10 o'clock, I said, young man, you've got to go now because I've got to close the lab up. So there's amazing stories around this. And of course, on the other side was 2 students. My many years of teaching, 2 students had said, look, I'm not going to go to nursing school. The first one was a teacher, summer way back in the mid-90s. The smell was too much for her. The smell. And she said, and we talked about smells important, right? Because you're dealing with feces, you're dealing with GI bleeds, blood. And I said, hey, listen, being a nurse or being a caregiver is not for the faint nose because things smell pretty rough. And she said, yes, the smell, I can't. I mean, we gave her Vicks, we gave her a mask, and just couldn't.
An infected sebaceous cyst.
Oh, I haven't,
Oh,
bad?
man, oh my Lord, it's the word. Oh.
Yeah?
Oh my God.
Okay.